Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning podcast dedicated to film and television. This week we are talking about bringing characters back from the dead, cliffhangers in movies, unlikable yet lovable characters, and weird casting choices. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. I'm your host, and also with the podcast is John Davenport, Troy Heinrichs, and Amanda Sink, and we are technically gone this week. You see, Amanda and I are actually at South by Southwest, the film festival. So this is going to be a compilation of 4 of our most popular topics from last year, kind of put together so you get a best of the best package because we don't have time. We're too busy seeing like 412 movies that we're going to bring a podcast to you next week. And we'll have some pretty exciting clips into panels, Q&As. We'll have some scoop on The Lost City, Bodies, 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 Halo, and a lot of other things. So keep an eye on that. Our South by Southwest episode is coming next week. But right now we have a compilation episode with myself, John Davenport, Troy Heinrichs, and Amanda Sink. We're all combined in there. And hopefully you guys have a good time listening to it. We're going to start with bringing characters back from the dead. Then we're going to sashay into cliffhangers in movies before we get to unlikable yet lovable characters. And then final out with weird casting choices. Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to share the show with your friends. We're always available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. We're on @BuyPopcorn on Twitter. The Hollywood Outsider is a Facebook group that you have to find. It's a private group with 1,000 plus people that talk about movies all the time. And also, we're on Facebook at The Hollywood Outsider. So there you go. Thanks for listening. Let's get into the show, and we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Take care, everybody. Bringing characters back from the dead. So obviously this question stems from Black Widow getting her solo movie long after she sacrifices herself for the good of the universe in Avengers Endgame. I don't know. We'll kind of talk about that a little later. Did that kind of cheapen her death? I don't know. We'll talk about it. But movies and TV have long pulled this gimmick, right? Just like comic books and novels, where a character we believe to be dead is brought back for some unknown purpose or fan service. So we're going to talk about that. So let's start it off. Do you have a hard stance in terms of the idea of bringing back characters who were clearly killed? And I don't mean we didn't see them die, like the Hound in Game of Thrones, right? We never saw him die, so it's not really a death we just assumed. I'm talking people who were dead.
Like Han.
Like Han in Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
He is so dead. He literally became a barbecue at his own death. So, but whatever. Do you have a hard stance on that? Do you have a hard stance in terms of how you look at that? Where a movie or a TV show retcons that and kind of just pulls it out of their ass that, no, the character survived miraculously.
I think it depends on the universe that I'm in, whether it's a TV show or a movie. If it has some sort of supernatural element where it can bring someone back to life, I'm more forgiving of it. It does cheapen the stakes, though, so the writers have to work harder to win me over in my anticipation of any potential death that they may be facing, because I've already, at that point, I've seen them survive death or come back from death, I should say.
Right.
And so then it's a challenge for me to buy into the stakes. But when it comes to something where that's not the case, and I'll go back to Fast and the Furious, it's a franchise I'm not going to stop watching because of it, but it does irritate the hell out of me.
They've done it twice.
They're just blatantly like, we'll fake it and it'll be fine, or we'll bring them back from the dead, or we'll just change things.
Man, they made 2 whole movies about the people that died that came back.
I know.
2.
I know. It's ridiculous. So it pisses me off, don't get me wrong, but it depends on how dedicated to the series or the franchise or movie of if I'm going to continue watching or not, how much it pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with death, and it's about story. So if you're going to kill off a character and it's going to cause other characters to have certain story arcs, and then you come back and change it later, I think that is absolute garbage, right? If you can say the quote unquote fake death was written in from the originating point, So like we always knew they were never actually dead. Then I think it totally works fine because like, that also drives good story. And because then you can say like, oh, because this, they made this decision, it affected all of these people. So when they come back to life, then it's a question of, well, how do these people interact with the fact that they've been duped? And if that's part of the story, then that makes sense. If it's just, oh, we wanted to bring him back or her back just because we like the character.
Or because ratings made, they plummeted after that character died and uproar and all that stuff. Yeah, intentionality.
I never like it if it's not woven in this story. Like there's some shows where I think I've heard Supernatural, it fits really well. I don't watch Supernatural, so I can't speak to that. But I know like in Game of Thrones, when you've got the Hound wasn't explained as dead. But then you have characters like Jon Snow who you understand because it's built into the actual mythology of the show that it works. Like things like that would work. So I'm okay with that. It's when you're talking about a show that deals with cops or something where it's not supernatural in any respect, and somehow that character survives. I mean, Dallas is like the big one, right? I mean, in terms of when Patrick Duffy dies and then, it's all a dream. What? No, it wasn't.
That probably pisses you off even more because of the dream thing. I hate dream sequences.
I don't like dream sequences. It's just a thing. I don't like it. Every time one pops up, I'm like, man, you lazy sumbitch. You can't think of something better. But anyway, so I'm never a fan of it. There's like a few things in storytelling that I really hate. Coming back from the dead without a real solid world universe reason. Twins and twins. Those are I hate
twins and triplets. How do you feel about triplets?
I like them 3 times as much. Or I hate them 3 times as much. I don't like them 3 times as much. I like actual triplets. They're wonderful people. I'm sure they're delightful and they're all similar in a myriad of ways. But in terms of in storytelling, he's not dead because he had a twin. What? I hate that. I absolutely hate that. That's worse than bringing a character
on a
back.
Separate note, how do you feel about clones?
Hate it. Same thing as twins. It's just a cheap writing gimmick.
But
so
what
you
if
can
that's
get around
the intentional thing? Like there's a bunch of clones out there for a specific reason.
If that's a story,
I'm thinking of Orphan Black.
Yeah, if that's a story, I'm okay with it. Like it's built into the story. Like I said, if it's built in, like you got the Clone Wars and Star Wars, I'm okay with that. It's built into the story, but it has to be. And I just won't watch those because I don't like clones or twins.
So it's just like don't use it as a cheap plot device.
It's like, to me, it's like watching As the World Turns or Telemundo. I'm just waiting for the what? It feels too soap opera for me.
Fair enough.
Telenovela. That's what I meant to say. Not the whole channel, just telenovelas. So there we go. So you talked about stakes. So what about stakes? As in, does doing this erase the stakes of a property? I mean, you've got Black Widow who died in Endgame and probably had the most powerful death in the whole Marvel world. Now she gets her own movie after she's dead. I mean, so do you think stuff like this cheapens the stakes?
I don't think so. I mean, especially in the terms of Black Widow, having just seen it right before we recorded the podcast, I thought it was really well done and how they were able to do it. I think it's also complete BS that they didn't give ScarJo her due diligence and gave her own movie during the 10 years that this whole thing was going on.
She deserved a trilogy now that you saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a whole lot of stuff with her character that would have fit within the timeline just fine. I mean, we had 3 Iron Mans. Did we need 3 Iron Mans? I mean, really? Do we need 3 Thors? 4 Thors? Like, it's almost ridiculous when you think about it in that regard.
4 Thors and 7 years ago. Sorry.
Someone's going to make that joke. But, no, again, it comes back to story. I don't think it's a property issue. Like, I could buy Han coming back in Fast and the Furious for maybe 50 cents, not a full $1. And it's going to ruin the property because he's back in there? I don't think so. I mean, I'm more upset by the other characters from that 3rd movie being in the 9th movie than I am about Han being in the 9th movie. But at the same time, it just depends. I think it really all comes down to, was it the intention of the story to begin with? Versus was it just written in to write in because we wanted to be, ooh, look at us, we're super creative and we came up with this cool idea just to go, haha, we fooled you all. Like that doesn't work. If the story calls for it, it's fine.
Like I was saying earlier, you really have to work hard when you do something like this to keep the stakes meaningful, because when you do this, people are immediately going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm crushed. This person died. I loved them. I cared about them. Or hell yeah, thank God they're gone. And when you remove that, they're going to be like, okay, when are you going to dupe me again? You know, like I bought into this and you just cheapened it, or you just have to work harder to make it work. Whether it's part of the story or not, I have a hard time with that. So you're going to have to still work harder to convince me that the other moments following it are meaningful and significant and that the stakes do exist. And when it comes to Black Widow, what you guys were asking about, you know, if it cheapens hers, yes, they should have done her movies throughout like they did with Iron Man and Thor. I think that would have made it significantly better. But I don't think that going back in time nullifies the significance of her character's death, because it's still back in time. It's things that happened prior to her death. Her death still ends up being meaningful. Now, if in the next phase and they have another movie where the Avengers are together or something, they have her character in a bunch of flashbacks or she comes back somehow, then it's super cheap. And then I'm irritated.
See, yeah, or you get her from like an alternate dimension or something.
Right. Yeah, right.
God, don't multiverse me. I just can't.
Well, it's called the multiverse of madness, so
yeah.
Or bring her character and it's just a different person because it's in a different universe, like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker and Miles Morales. That kind of thing I'm okay with because it's not the same person.
Right, it's not the exact same character. Or you have a different character where the Black Widow name or something like that. Because obviously there's a lot of Black Widows out there. It's not just the one. For me, bringing characters back from the dead almost always like just cheapens the stakes immediately and whatever I'm watching. I used to this is an example, right? So I used to love Angel and I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Love both shows. I still love them, but in the end of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Spike is killed and he's given a very, very kind of moving death. He finally sacrifices himself, right? He finally does something good in his life. And it's kind of impactful. And then he comes back the very next season in Angel, and it's almost like nothing really happened. I mean, he didn't really do a whole lot. He didn't really sacrifice himself. So for me, every time I've gone back, because I've rewatched Buffy several times, I've rewatched Angel several times, it didn't really hurt the impact of Angel in many respects. But when I watch that Buffy finale, every time I feel zip. Nothing. Because I know he's fine. He's not he's coming back. So to me, it completely killed a wonderful character moment that I really loved until then.
I still get teary-eyed.
Oh,
that was two fascinating takes that you both talked over each other. So I'm can you separate it a little?
We'll let the Buffy fan go first.
I still get teary-eyed. Whenever I see Spike, because he ultimately still made that sacrifice, but it affects me in Angel. It doesn't affect me in Buffy.
Okay.
If that makes sense, because the stakes were still there in Buffy. Buffy didn't have any additional episodes because that was the series finale. And then in Angel is where it starts to change because then he's there and he's back. And so it affects me there.
He raped her. He raped her.
Yep.
He raped her. He has no redeeming quality whatsoever. You may think he was going to get his soul. You may think he was doing a good thing. Spike has always been about Spike. And that was complete garbage. Angel should have come back in the finale, and Angel should have been the one that sealed the deal. That would have been the true ending. Spike, hot garbage. Like,
well,
it totally
I think
was
the
like,
rape didn't align with his character at all.
That was weird.
Like,
he was a vampire.
Like, what are you doing?
He's evil.
Like, Spike's a fun character. Spike's like the Barney on How I Met Your Mother. He's a fun character to watch. You love and enjoy him, but he does not get the redeemable moment. Like, Willow should have closed the void or something, or Xander could have closed the void, or Charisma Carpenter's character Cordelia could have closed the void. Anybody, Giles could have closed the void, come back from the dead. I don't know, but anybody but Spike. Like, that just, it cheapened it for me. I hated it.
He's the only character where I pretend like that didn't happen because it just did not feel. It didn't feel like a natural moment, like this was the progression for him. I was just like, where is this coming from? You know what I mean? Like, they just made his character insufferable.
It's coming from the fact that because he did something from a selfless act, the powers that be gave him his soul so that he could come back to life to go on to the other show. That is the only reason Spike was written in that way.
All right. Well, let's discuss some times where it worked or didn't work and why those stuck with you. Amanda, you kind of started with Buffy, right? With Buffy, because her first death was fantastic. And one of the...
Oh, it was amazing.
They ruined it. And not only going to the network, but they completely ruined that death. It was a great series finale. It would have been.
Yeah, I love... And you're talking about the second one, right?
Yeah. Any of her resurrections, really.
Yeah, so her first death was fantastic, and I love the way that she was brought back. Because it was like, okay, you can die for a minute or two and still be brought back. That I will buy, where she technically died. And her last death in season 5, right? Season 5?
Yeah, the season 5 finale.
She did the most amazing thing where she sacrificed herself. She was at peace with it. Everything was great. And then the show got renewed and they didn't plan on it. So then they had to find a way to bring her back. And it was like, it was really hard because it was such a perfect way for her character to go out and for the show to close up. However, I will say they made me buy back into her character at least because she didn't want to be there. She didn't want to be back alive. She was in heaven. Things were good. And they made it complicated. They made her death coming back so complicated because when we think about resurrecting characters, even for a TV show, it's often for selfish reasons. It's because we want them back. And that's the same reason for Buffy's resurrection is these people wanted her back. We're not really thinking about how that person's going to come back or where they were, because we don't know what's going on after you die. And so I actually really liked the writing of that, of how they handled her coming back into the world. It wasn't all butterflies and rainbows and like the Slayer's back. She's ready to do her thing.
I mean, I love the first Buffy death because it brought faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you get Eliza Dushku on the screen, I'm like, I'm in.
She's
Kill
great.
everybody if Eliza's going to take her place.
Kill everybody. I'll give you one that really irks me. It's in a movie, but Ripley in Alien Resurrection. Like, I don't think Alien 3 is a great movie, but it's a solid movie. I really kind of like the idea and the themes of it more than I like the execution. And I know Fincher fans are like, you can't say that. It's a wonderful movie. It's fine. It's fine. It's not,
okay.
Yeah, it's okay. But Alien Resurrection, where they're just like bringing her back, and what is she, Troy?
What is Ripley?
Yeah, she's a clone. She's
a clone. Yes, she's a clone.
So I hate it. I absolutely hate it. There's just no reason why they should have done that. Like, expand the universe, do something different. I know Sigourney Weaver is awesome. I think we can all agree Sigourney Weaver is freaking awesome. On the same token, move past it. She had her arc. It played out. Let a character be dead and move on. Commit to the choice you made. So that one always really bugs me. Just bugs me. That and Phil Coulson really pisses me off.
Man.
Phil Coulson pisses me off because that's probably the only really impactful death in Marvel anymore, simply because of the fact that they're all so non-impactful. I mean, Black Widow, she got her movie. I'm still thinking she's going to come back into the universe because of the multiverse. So it really hasn't completely impacted me. So Phil Coulson was one where I actually like got hit in the gut, and then he gets a TV show. I'm like, look at Marvel. You die and you get a TV show. What a great deal.
We're talking about ones we loved.
You can go either way. I think we've kind of talked. I mean, like Jon Snow, I loved, and that came back. But I already talked about that one. So yeah, you can do either way. Well, just talk about anything that bothered you or didn't bother.
I'll do one good one and one bad one from the same TV show, and that is Revenge.
Oh, are you going to say the one I was going to say?
Probably.
I hope so. Do it.
The one that was bad. The whole premise of Revenge, for those that haven't seen it, is Emily Van Camp plays the lead. And she's on a quest to basically take down everybody that was responsible for her father's death. Well, at the end of season 3, that pretty much happens. And now with his name cleared, he's like, all of a sudden, right at the end of season 3, at the start of season 4, he shows up alive. And you're just like, WTF. Come on, this is so dumb. I was so angry because they only did it so that they could get the 4th season. And it just like I thought season 3 was going to be it, and it was perfect. It was like boom, 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 simple Netflix series. It would have been awesome. But no, they have to bring her dad back from the dead because he was never actually dead. I hate that. That's the trope I can't stand.
I can't stand
where they're dead, but they're not actually dead.
Yeah. People go to the funeral. You'd think they look at the body. Oh, no. Oh, by the way, it was a closed casket. Nobody mentioned that before? Nobody. In 3 years, no one mentioned that it was a closed casket? Okay.
But then at the end of season 4, the main character, the villain of the show, Victoria, she ends up getting murdered. And then you find out at the very, very last sequence of the entire series for the series finale that she wasn't dead. And part of the issue was that Emily Van Camp's character ends up giving an organ donation to a woman to find out that the woman was actually Victoria. So the woman she's been trying to kill the entire show, it's like a what do you want to call it? A tragic ending in a way. Because now a part of her is always going to be in Victoria, who's now alive. I thought that was freaking brilliant. And I was like, yes, bravo. Awesome.
That sounds like
you're missing one.
So good.
Which
one am I missing?
You're missing Lydia Davis. She was the best friend. Victoria, she somehow managed to survive falling from a high-rise balcony onto a park taxi and also a plane bombing.
Yes.
Like, both of those things. She
was a robot.
This show sounds awful. Really. I never watched it, but the show sounds awful.
It's actually a good show, but it's not something you would like.
Is it? Is it, though? Is it?
I did a podcast on it. It must have been good.
That doesn't really mean it. You've done a podcast on literally everything, Troy. So, remember that dome? Remember the dome one? That was fun, huh?
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure you did a Twilight podcast or something.
Totally. The one that I really like, though, is, and this is actually a good and a bad one, again, from the same kind of series, was Battlestar Galactica, where in Caprica, which is the prequel or pre-show or prior to Battlestar reboot 2004, Caprica, the whole premise of Caprica was that they were building the Cylons to fight the war that's happening on Geminon. And the guy that built the Cylon, his daughter, ends up spending more time in virtual reality. So she finds after she ends up getting killed because she's part of a terrorist group, her avatar in the virtual reality world is what gets downloaded into the Cylon to give the Cylons the consciousness of their ability to become their own race. So like that death was great because the way they brought her back actually sets up the story for how the Cylons come to be.
Yep, that works.
Come to the end of the sequence, however,
it's got to be Kara, right?
Kara Thrace and her coming back as an angel or whatever the hell she was, like that was just DUMB dumb. I
remember watching that, and man, I remember watching that, and like the first time through, I'm just like, that wasn't bad. Like everybody hated this. It was fine. I didn't mind it. It was kind of a good versus evil kind of thing. I dug it. And then you go and you rewatch it, because I rewatched it a couple times, and you rewatch it and you're like, so everybody had to be in on it, right? At some point, like she fooled everybody. Like it's a really dumb construct when you really, really pay attention to it. Because the first time you're not really paying attention to it because you don't know what's going on. You didn't know that was the issue. But then the second time you know what's happening, so you're paying a little bit more attention to it, and you realize it is very dumb.
Yeah, because it's like when it happens, you're like, I thought she crashed. I thought she died. Why is she still here? I'm so confused. Mm-hmm. And then when you find out why she's there, then it's like, oh, she was never there to begin with.
Yeah, you gave one of the best characters the worst send off possible.
Yeah,
really,
because it was her ability to do the final jump to get them to where they needed to go, but it wasn't really her. Like that makes no sense.
It's frustrating. Oh, any other ones worth mentioning real quick before we move on to listener comments?
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Mulder.
Oh, well,
because you're the X-Files guru.
Did he didn't die though?
I mean, did he? He died.
No, he just disappeared. I never thought Mulder was dead. I never thought Mulder was dead. I never thought Mulder. I just thought he was just gone. So to me, that's not the same thing. But cigarette smoking, man, I'll go to another X-Files one. Bringing him back for the resurgence, they can go to hell. Chris Carter can go straight to hell for that. That was the cheapest cop out ever because he blew up just like Han. A frickin' rocket went right at the man. He blew up. I don't know how exactly you can explain to me that he dodged that bullet, but I'm not buying it. It's nonsense. So there you go.
The annoying one that I have to mention before we finish this out is Michael Scofield from Prison Break.
Man, that's such a good one. It's like annoying.
He literally had a brain tumor and also got electrocuted.
And had a funeral.
Like the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. And he's suddenly not dead. What?
I mean, I'm of two minds of that. Number one, I hated it.
Did he Buffy crawl out of the gravesite?
Hang on. I'm of two minds of that because I did hate it. On the same token, when they brought him back, I'm not going to lie, I was so giddy. I was just like, oh, thank God. Because I know. It was such
I really enjoyed
garbage.
that 5th season. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, right? And it was kind of garbage that he died to begin with. Because I'm like, what a piece of shit. What kind of shit is this? Why are you killing the best character for no reason other than it's cool? And then he even had a movie that went straight to DVD that showed how he died. So I literally watched him die. If you never saw that, you literally watch him die. And it's nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Oh, but then there's a TV show, so that's not part of the canon.
Well, I've got the DVD.
His funeral was still part of the TV show.
I literally have the DVD, Troy. I've watched it recently. It counts. I mean, it says the final break right on the box. And then they were like, well, we could make a little bit more money on this. So we were just kidding. We worked it out. So he's in a prison somewhere. He faked his death. And what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yep. Stupid.
Yeah.
But you know who can always get away with dying and not dying?
Who?
And coming back? Horror movie characters. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger.
It's an excellent freaking point. Okay. Keep talking. Keep talking.
They all die multiple times and they all come back.
How did we never
They are
mention this?
invincible.
How do you feel about that? Are you on board with that or you think it's ridiculous? It can be both.
It is ridiculous, but this is where I have the most forgiveness because it's just, to me, it's like a horror movie trope. It's just part of the cliche that you can use where they can, they have some sort of invincibility to them where they can come back and it doesn't really keep them down. And that's part of the horror movie trope in general is like, if you shoot someone through the heart and you think that they're dead, maybe the bullet moved in a different way, so you always have to shoot them in the head or cut their head off to make sure they're actually dead. But I'm pretty sure some of them have been set on fire, and then they still don't die. So they come back.
It's supernatural, though. I covered my bases earlier, so I got an out. It's supernatural. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I don't care. Those movies are always fun to me. I don't know why. Don't judge me. I got a problem. But
unless the movies are connected.
Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, though, would you really say they're supernatural?
How is he not supernatural? He's literally had an axe in his head. And
that's what I'm saying.
He's a freaking zombie in half the movies. How is that not super? Now, Michael Myers, they always want to present it as he's a real dude. He's just really evil. Really evil? Bitch, he's been getting back up. He's been burned. He's been lit on fire. He's been stabbed and everything. That's more than just evil. Jeffrey Dahmer was evil. They killed him once. He stayed dead.
It takes witchcraft, I think, to get rid of these villains.
That's got to be supernatural, and that's my out. If it's kind of supernatural, I'm okay with it. But also because I really like those movies, and I'm okay. I was gonna say I want the cool killer to come back. Because then he just kills a bunch of other college kids, and then it's good days.
And they learn that sex is bad.
Yeah, I don't even care about that. I just like to see the cool kills. Like, he pulled him up by a sleeping bag and slammed him against a tree. That was awesome. Yep. Michael Myers just stab. That's all he does. He's kind of lame.
And Freddy works because Freddy's only in your dreams.
His is supernatural to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Until you connect movie 1 and movie 3 together and they realize what the parents did. And so they bring him out to the real world and actually kill him for real. That's when it gets a little far-fetched after the third movie.
But it's still supernatural because he's there in the dreams. That's when it's
far-fetched? Wait. So somewhere Troy's watching this as a documentary of the first 3 movies? You're like, oh, I could totally see this happening in the real world. Oh, shit. That can't happen. That's a lie.
Not to mention Freddy versus Jason puts them in the same universe. And so there's these two massive serial killers that apparently are just making their way around the globe, but meet back in the same area.
Hang on.
So if there's all this spiritual, natural stuff going on, where the hell is Spike? Why isn't he closing up this stuff?
I'm still on little Troy Heinrichs watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and about an hour into it going, wait, this isn't real? What? That's what I'm picturing right now. Like, I'm totally on board. Now this is kind of bullshit. What is going on?
I thought this is the stuff that happened in California. You're telling me this isn't what happened in California?
Goddamn hippies.
I love the first movie. I hated the second movie. And when Dream Warriors came out, I was like, hell yeah, Nancy's back. Let's get to it. This is great stuff.
I didn't like when Nancy was back. The second one is just not a great. There's actually a really cool documentary on that movie. You should find it. I can't remember the name of it, but you should find it. It's
on
really
the second
interesting.
Movie?
It's fascinating because it's really, but it's a documentary and it's because there's a lot of gay themes in that movie that were at play that they were trying to do like a deeper, kind of a deeper story, and obviously it didn't translate well to the movie. But the documentary is really fascinating, and how that guy, emotionally kind of took a toll from the film and everything. Like, it's just really fascinating if you like the behind the scenes of movies in general. The name of it is Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. So find that. There you go. It looks at the second film. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's about Mark Patton and kind of what he goes through. So you can definitely check that out. We should probably move on, but we've got some listener comments. So Amanda.
So Scott Calgaro says, if you're reviving dead characters, you're one step away from being canceled. I think there's a place for that to have some truth. And I think it, again, depends on the universe you're in and the reason behind bringing them back. If you're reviving characters because your viewings, your audience viewers plummeted after a character died, then yes, your show is about to die.
I think that's a fair argument, actually.
That makes me super nervous for a certain TV show.
Is this the TV show Who Must Not Be Named?
He
Blacklist?
Can only do it once an episode.
I did it for him.
You're encouraging him. Don't do it.
No, I said once a quarter, didn't I? Or once a month?
Something like that.
That was my stipulation.
You're basically like, if he was a drug addict, he basically just put a line of coke right in front of his face and said, you don't want to snort? You don't want just a little,
And to be honest, I was referring to Lost. But anyways, Jen Ryan said...
it's just as bad.
That's worse, because that
is worse.
Less enjoyable at the end. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Jen Ryan said, for me, it depends on the show and the universe the show lives in. Take Supernatural, for instance. It was a common occurrence for characters thought dead to come back to life somehow, if it's the universe of the show. However, in other places, it becomes trite and absolutely lessens the stakes when it happens on shows where it's just a big stretch to believe it could happen in the first place.
We need our resident supernatural guy, John Davenport, on the episode to talk about this. But, I mean, they're vampires, right? Like, they come back as vampires and demons, I would assume. So
they're people.
That works. No. The people who come back from the dead, I'm assuming they bring them back as vampires.
Sam and Dean Winchester, the lead characters, have died and all come back. I think Sam was dead for like a whole season, the way I understood it.
Oh, well, that's
I watched like
I need an
7
explanation
episodes.
now.
I do too, but not right now.
Well, clearly one of them is dead to the other right now, so.
Oh.
No, they made up.
Or it was a stunt, okay?
I don't think that was a stunt.
We talked about that.
I don't think it was a stunt. Phil Steven said, faking a death is okay once. Coming back from the dead is a non-starter. So are you guys okay with faking a death on TV?
Yeah, totally.
As long as it's believable?
Yeah, as long as it fits the story, right? Like, I fake my death, therefore it causes this chain of events, and because of this chain of events, we get more character stories from the characters that it's impacted by. And then when it turns out that, oh, hey, I wasn't dead at all, like we were talking about Victoria in Revenge, I think it's super great because then it's like, holy crap, she wasn't dead. What are they going to do about that? And then you get a whole set of stories that come out of that as well.
I don't care as much about the story when it comes to faking a death. I care about the logistics. So
you can't see their car blow up.
Yeah, you can't actively see them burning in a car that is upside down, surrounded by people.
Surrounded by people within 6 literal feet of the car.
Yeah. They were social distancing from the fire, but they were all watching as Han died and somehow got out of the car.
Yeah. Just like crisscross and was gone.
right?
Because it was a clone in the car. I'm telling you, it was a clone.
Oh my God. No, it was a ghost, apparently, according to the Fast 9 logic. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I just don't like it. There's nothing about faking it or about coming back from the dead that works for me. And especially if you see it. If you actually see it, logistics have to work. Like if you're going to fake a death, it's got to be manageable. Like you've got to be able to go back and watch the episode where the character died and say, okay, I can see how they got out of that.
Yep.
If you go back and you go, man, that's no, there's really no wiggle room there, then I just have a hard time with it.
And if they pull it off, I give them even more props because you have to have first convinced me that I thought they were dead or they were going to die. And then I would have to go back and be like, okay, let me rewatch this. And then I'm like, oh man, I missed it. I missed where there was an opportunity for them to have faked their death. And so they're fine and it makes sense. And I'm like, wow, good job for you. But it's such a cliche that you have to do it for the right reasons and in the right way.
And I really feel like in this day and age, networks and movie executives, whoever, need to be really a little bit smarter and more media savvy about this, right? Because I do think too often, a character will die in a show where the death has been faked or something like that, and they don't do an interview, and then you don't hear anything more about it. Well, that to me says they're still in the show, So what they should be doing is doing an interview where they talk about how they died on the show. They should be doing that kind of press because then the audience believes it. Because I can tell you as a diehard fan of shows, if I don't hear that exit interview or I don't get some kind of confirmation from social media, I automatically don't buy it. It's the age we live in. You guys know what I'm talking about? So they really need to do that. I think social media and networks and movie companies, everything, they need to step up their game if they're going to fake deaths and make us buy into it by committing to it on a social media level too.
That's a good point.
And sometimes it's like commit to it and sometimes the fans still don't believe it.
True. Yeah, that's true. Troy, we talked about this. Dune ends pretty distinctively on a cliffhanger, and people don't know if they're going to get that second movie yet. A lot of other films have done this, though it's pretty rare that the first film in a series has. So I just want to talk to you. I mean, do you like this aspect? Do you think it's good to do this on a first film that you don't know if you're going to get a second one?
I think that, like I mentioned The Last Airbender with M. Night Shyamalan's version, and the fact that it was supposed to be 3 books. Everybody that knew the source material from Nickelodeon knew that it was 3 books in 3 parts. And if you're going to go into doing something like that, you have to do like Lord of the Rings did, where you film everything all at once. And if you film everything all at once, at least then you have something to put out. Even if it wasn't great, it's still content that you can release in different formats, whether it's straight to DVD or straight to DVD. Look at me with my age. Straight to streaming or on demand or some other feature. At the same time, it's like, yeah, Dune, I can't, with how magical and beautiful and expensive as it all looked, I can't imagine why they wouldn't have done it if they knew it was going to be 2 parts and record them both at the same time. But at the same time, Back to the Future, when it first came out and it ended on that cliffhanger, and you were just kind of like, holy crap. It's like, is this going to happen? Like, are we going to get a second movie? Is there going to be a second movie? It was a cool way to end on a cliffhanger, hoping for a second movie, yet not knowing if you were going to get one. And if you didn't get one, it still works.
Exactly.
So I think
yeah.
The idea is that you have to be able to end it with the hope of the future, but still be a finale. That if it never comes back, you can say, oh, I can make up my own fan fiction stories and comic books and whatever, because obviously I'm not going to get a second version of this.
Yeah, if we never got Back to the Future 2 and 3, which maybe we'd be better off without them, honestly, we would still have that imagination and going at play because we still got a completed film. Like the story we were watching was completed. And now we've got a bunch of adventures. We got fan fiction, like you said, in our heads about where Doc and Marty go, and some films have done that. I mean, Batman Begins, when they rebooted that one, sure, you're going to get more Batman films. But if that one flopped, even though it kind of ends with him being teased with the Joker card and whatnot, I can still picture that movie happening in my head. I can still picture The Thing. The Thing is a favorite one of mine because it ends very much with the characters and their fates and a cliffhanger. We don't know exactly how it's going to end. So we have to put that up in our head as to how this is actually going to finish. And I like that. It works for that particular movie, so it can work. I don't know why you do it when you got half the story, and why more studios don't do the Lord of the Rings approach, because it worked so well. I mean, I get it's a 1 in a million shot, right? You're not going to score that well every time. But in the same token, doesn't that make it a little easier at some point? I mean, you've got TV shows that are filming, multiple hours, and they're doing it all at once, Game of Thrones, things like that, like these big sci-fi epics, Vikings and stuff like that. Why couldn't you do that with, Dune or something like that? Just do it all at once. And if it doesn't work, maybe you release it as a series. I don't know, but at least you have it all done. So fans don't feel like they're wasting their time and engagement.
Yeah. And we talk about this a lot when you talk about software deployments and system deployments, because some people are like, well, the company can only handle so much and change management and blah, 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 blah. And you roll this stuff out, and it's like, well, I can either roll it out all at once and do it in 13 months, or I could roll it out over 3 years. And if you roll it out over 3 years, you spend more money because you have to keep more people employed. You have to keep more people, more money coming in, because it's just time, right? If you can record it all at once, you save so much money that even if the first one flops, you can still make money on the second one. Like you said, release it as a TV series and just break it up into 10 little mini movies and rework some of the editing. And it would probably work just great. And it might actually do better at the end of the day. But to know that there isn't even a script written for part 2 at this point for Dune makes me super nervous.
Well, thankfully I didn't enjoy it as much as you did, so I'm not that worried about it. If I never see it, I'll be fine. But I know a lot of people that absolutely love this movie, and I don't want anyone to not love something. So if they had a great time, that's fantastic. I am happy for them, and I want them to get the conclusion that they deserve.
And I don't think it's not that I don't know if I enjoyed it yet. I watched it once. I watched it on a small screen. The sound was still impressive because I have a pretty decent sound system in my office. I think for me it's something that has to be watched twice, because the first time you're just like, okay, who is everybody? What is going on? What is all the things I need to understand, especially not reading the book? Like if I go back and watch it a second time, then I'm like, okay, as long as HBO Max has 2x speed.
Oh, wow.
Because it's just, there's that much drag. I mean, I don't mean to sound that like a sand joke or something, but there's so much drag in this movie that it's the space that really hampers it.
It's very coarse. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. There's just, because I think the story and the concepts and there's a giant empire and there's these warring houses and they want to collect this stuff. And there's these people that are like at the center of this war and like they keep ravaging their planet. I think there's a lot of good stuff in all of that story. It's just slow.
But back to our conversation on cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Back to that. I mean, there has been a lot of movies where they've made good use of it. I mean, Captain America, I think, ended on a huge cliffhanger. But if you never got another Captain America movie, I feel like that still would have worked for me. I still got a full story, his full story. So that worked. But you've got a lot of movies that keep trying stuff like that. Green Lantern's probably one of the worst examples I can think of, because you have this ending where you get Sinestro, who's kind of built up, like he's Hal Jordan's mentor, and now he's going to use the yellow ring to harness the evil power. So it sets him up as like this big future villain. It's kind of like if you set up Thanos and then you never got to pay it off because the sequel never came, because the movie was poorly received. So basically anybody that might have enjoyed the movie now has a future that they never get. And I feel like that was still part of the story that was going on. So people are kind of screwed, in that respect. I don't like when they do that. I feel like cliffhangers should be held for a second movie. I don't think they should be part of the first one unless you've already filmed the future parts.
Yeah. Like Star Wars, A New Hope, perfect standalone movie. Never needed Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly.
But then Empire Strikes Back ends on the cliffhanger because you get the third, right? The Matrix, hey, we got this world and we can still do stuff with this world, but the first movie ends and it could be a standalone movie and it'd be just fine. Even Infinity War could have ended with the snap, and we could have had an entire 10 years post snap before Endgame ever happened.
Sure.
And that would have been, and then when Endgame would have happened, you would have been like, holy crap, it's a sequel. It's great. It's awesome.
Well, it would have been 5 years. Would have been weird if it was 10, but that's a different movie.
Yeah, I get it at 5 years. That's funny.
Yeah.
But I say 10 years because it took him 10 years to get to Infinity War.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's just, if you're going to go into it going, I know that this is a part one, then at least end part one with an answer or a hope of what's coming next, not just abrupt.
And don't just do it to try to be clever. I mean, do you remember the Planet of the Apes, the Mark Wahlberg one? The one that,
oh yeah.
Do you remember that where they ended on that cliffhanger where General Thade is like, he's the Lincoln Memorial now? And it's like, what? And ape cops are everywhere because they were obviously setting it up for future movies and it just didn't work. What? That was so bad. Just so bad.
Yeah, because even the whole War, Rise, Dawn, I always forget which order they go in. They
Rise, War.
Rise, Dawn, War, right?
Rise, Dawn, War, yeah. Rise, Dawn,
yeah.
War. Yep.
Like even there where they go across the Golden Gate Bridge and you're like, okay, like this was great. Like
story told.
I don't need another movie.
Yep.
But then when they come back and they're like, oh, here's the second movie, you're like, oh, this is really great. Like I'm excited to see a second movie, but they could be standalone at the same time.
Exactly. Just crazy. I mean, even Fellowship of the Ring, I realize Lord of the Rings is a 3-part story, but I actually, even though I wouldn't watch it just alone, I have watched just the first one. And I feel like even that kind of tells me the majority of the story. Like I got a feeling I could, in my mind, decide how it ends. I still think that's one of the ballsiest plays Hollywood's ever made, is by making all 3 of those at once. They got lucky that they were so well received because that could have been a gigantic floppo. Mm-hmm. And we never, maybe we never would have got the second and third ones because the first one has to be a hit for them to keep investing in special effects and the cutting and the post-production and all that stuff. So, I mean, we did get lucky, but they did film it all at once, which meant at least we knew those 3 parts were there. So it's just a matter of time and money.
Agree.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Now, I do want to mention some listener comments on this particular topic because I just thought like some people had some thoughts, in terms of how they feel about any movies on a cliffhanger. Christopher Jarmark says, it depends. Typically, I enjoy the suspense, and then it usually means that we're getting another film. However, there's been more than a few times where the moans of purists prevented the sequel from happening, like Power Rangers, Mr. or Mrs. Peregrine's, The Suicide Squad, etc. I can see where fans are coming from. They're so deeply invested in source material that it has become part of them. So they only want to see what they expect. However, that's not the purpose of adaptation, an art form in and of itself. Adaptations aren't meant to be literal retellings. I kind of wish we could all grasp that without feeling slighted when films look or feel different from what we were expecting. I love that point. I really do.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a great point. Stefan Smitterback, he said, depends on the movie. Alita Battle Angel was bad because there will not be another movie. And then we have Marvel that more or less do cliffhangers the whole time and spice it with teases of things to come. It works for the moment they get released, but it is less interesting when years go by. I agree with that. Like that, if you go back and rewatch those movies and you watch them as standalones, it's kind of weird when you get those kind of post-credit scenes or the little cliffhangers for what's to come,
See, I think I disagree on Alita Battle Angel because
really?
At the time when I saw it, I was like, damn, like this is great. This is just getting good. I want more. At the same time, I think it ends at a really perfect place because she's saying like, you can't stop me. I'm coming for you. And the whole movie stands alone by itself just fine. So I don't agree on that one. I do want more for sure, but I think the movie itself is fine as it is.
I think it worked, but it surprised me that it was as good as it was, honestly. And by the end, I kind of did want additional ones. So I can see why people would want those. I just could see why people would want those. Last one, Anna Maria Germa. I think it depends on how the ending serves the story. A movie like The Truman Show was kind of a cliffhanger ending, but it works because the film is all about an old life ending and a new one beginning. If the cliffhanger is a result of a second movie that just never gets made, that's just a bad dice roll, I guess.
That's a good point. Was Truman Show a cliffhanger? Because how does Truman interact with the real world now that he's escaped? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't want that movie. That seems boring.
But do you consider that a cliffhanger? I mean, by that definition, Inception would be a cliffhanger ending. Because does the top spin and fall, or does it just spin? That's left to you. So is that a cliffhanger? Or is that just a proper ending?
The way the movie was supposed to end.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, a cliffhanger is we don't get the answers to the overall story at the end. And I feel like Truman Show, you get the answers. I feel like Inception, you get the answers. It's just what you make of that final moment. Dune, it's all set up. That 2.5 hours is all set up.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 hour prologue to the actual movie that's coming.
Yeah.
If it comes.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully it'll come a little faster. You know what I mean? In terms of how it plays. My God. Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider Presents Bad Movie Night. Now, it originally started off as a podcast which took any movie that was deemed bad by critics or audiences and took another look at them, and quickly morphed into a show where at least one of the hosts had to genuinely enjoy the film we were talking about. We even close most episodes with our own positive review. So slap subscribe right now to the Hollywood Outsider Presents Bad Movie Night to guarantee yourself a new episode every single month. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie, just movies that aren't good enough for you. This week, our From the Outside In topic is unlikable TV characters you find quite lovable. This topic spawns from Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. Maybe even Bronn from Game of Thrones, but really, like, at the height of popularity right now is Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, because this is a character that if you started watching Ted Lasso last year, he was kind of just a dick. He's really kind of a dick. But as the show goes, he's become more and more lovable. And that's what we're going to talk about. Unlikable TV characters that you eventually find quite lovable. Now, Troy, do you find it easier to love unlikable characters on TV than, say, in real life? And, you know, you run into somebody who had the same characteristics as a Roy Kent. Would you want to be friends with them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I try to look for the best in people and don't make real snap judgment first impression decisions. But at the same time, I really try to surround myself with people of character and moral standing. And if you say something that's going to trip my trigger like the wrong way almost immediately, I'm probably not going to be around in the relationship long enough to be able to see the good in you over the long haul. And I think that's one thing that TV allows us to do, is that you get that kind of irksus feeling, you know, right at the beginning of the first or second episode. But by episode 10, you're like, oh, okay, I could see where the journey is going and how they're getting better, and I want to invest in them and see what happens. So I think from that perspective, it's definitely easier on TV to say, yes, that person was a horrible human being, but I kind of understand, versus in real life. Real life is challenging because you have to give a lot of your time in order to make that journey happen.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's just, there's a lot of people out there who I love on television that I think sometimes to myself, God, I want to really hang out with that person. But at the same time, I look at that person, I'm like, no, I would be a target for that person. And I don't want to be a target for anybody. And I don't have the energy to put into a relationship that will just suck the energy out of me. I just don't want it. But again, at the same time, I love that barrier of the television between some of these people, so that I can enjoy them for what they are. And you know, and sometimes we want to be kind of like some of these people, but at the same time, the reason why they're written so well is because they're a team of writers writing them.
And the performers, obviously.
Obviously that too.
I mean, I've been horribly surprised because I really didn't like Roy Kent as a character the first season. Not just because I didn't think he was unlikable or just unlikable. I'm like, he just seems like just always angry. God, but he's grown on me like this season. And, you know, John and I were talking earlier, Dan Fielding, one of my favorite TV characters of all time, is not a likable dude. He's really kind of a jerk. He's a jackass all through and through. He's an asshole. On the same token, he's my favorite character on that show. I love him to death. And every once in a while he would, on Night Court, and every once in a while he would do something very sympathetic or empathetic or just loving in a way, but he never wanted anybody to know it. And then so you kind of see the underlying layers that existed. And that's a lot of the writing and the actor portraying that. Now, if I met Dan Fielding in real life, I got a feeling he's like a lot of lawyers, and I probably wouldn't like him at all. I would probably despise him. So it's kind of amazing how TV, you can feel completely different about people than in your real life, you know, and maybe it's because you get those layers. You know, sometimes you see somebody and you're making, I wouldn't say snap judgments, Troy. I get what you're saying, but more like, I've seen him a couple times and he's always kind of the same guy. Well, I've seen Dan Fielding numerous times, and it took a couple years before we saw the real warmth of his character. So maybe that's part of that, you know, because you get those layers, you get the underneath part.
Yeah. And what a interesting journey, I guess, would be the case for Brett Goldstein.
Oh, wow.
Because when he was writing the character for Ted Lasso. He wasn't even in the conversation to be Roy Kent. And then he's just like, I want to try to be Roy Kent. And then he just goes in there and just nails the audition and embodies Roy from the get-go. So, I mean, what a cool story to be, writing, but also acting the same person you're creating and having that full control over that character. That's just got to be super, super fun for him.
And different from, Sudeikis creating the Ted Lasso show and whatnot, because Goldstein had, at that point, not known that he was going to be Roy Kent. He just loved that character and thought he could be that character and asked to audition and won that character. So, I mean, that's like a totally different journey from a guy who creates a show for himself or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's fascinating. TV's full of unlikable characters, but can you remember a specific moment where you switched from not liking a character to starting to fall in love with them, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the one that came to mind the easiest is Spike from Buffy. So, he's initially a villain. He develops this weird obsession with Buffy. Then he gets kind of rapey and weird, and he's hard to deal with. And it's really turns the show kind of mopey. And thank God, spoilers, he dies at the end of the series of Buffy. But then he comes back to life in Angel, and he's nearly a completely different character just because of the way he plays off of Angel. When you see the differences between those two characters, which are very much, they're both vampires, they both have souls, only one decided to earn his soul and the other was cursed with his soul. You can go figure out who's who. But seeing Spike kind of be the heel to Angel's like straight man really turned that character around for me, and he became one of my favorite parts of that show in that final season.
He's a hard one to like, but he does win you over at the end.
He does not.
Yeah, I don't like Spike that much. I'm trying to be an advocate for the fans, man, but he did do that horrible crap at the end, didn't he?
It's not that he did the horrible. It never should have been him to get the victory. Never should have been him to get the victory.
Man, you hear that? Troy's telling you that you're wrong. Just so you know.
I am.
Well, we don't know who got the victory.
That's true.
We do. He came back. He got to come back on Angel.
Right. He came back on Angel.
That's a win. That's a huge win.
Well, that was a win, but all those characters had died and come back. So it was a thing. They were handing out like chiclets. Yeah. There was no big deal.
It's called no stakes, which means that his big, gigantic, momentous moment of I'm going to do this for Buffy. Yeah, no, complete crap.
He picks on Angel at every single moment. In that last season, Angel was really hard to deal with because he was super mopey and, he wasn't the cool guy he was at the beginning of that series. So to have him come up and especially that episode where Angel gets turned into a puppet and the elevator opens and he's like, "You're a wee little puppet man,"
Troy, what about you? What's one that comes to mind where really you really switched on a character?
Oh, I mean, how can you not go to one Benjamin Linus in Lost?
Ooh, that's a good one.
From the get-go.
Well, we probably could. How could you not go to Benjamin on Lost?
Right. I could go a different way, but Ben Linus, this happened during the pandemic where I was, of course, rewatching Lost for the 100th time. And there was an episode that I got to I think it was in season 6, and it was the flash sideways where Ben gets constantly beat up and gets run over by the car and all this other stuff. And he has this conversation with Ilana on the beach, and he's like, "Well, I'll come with you." And she's like, "Why do you want to come with me?" He's like, "Because nobody will have me." And I was just like, I don't know what it was in that moment, but I just lost my stuff. And I've never cried in that sequence before. And I think it was that, 800th time through that I finally was like, I get the character of Ben finally. Ben was this guy who was promised all these things and then never ever was put first or made to feel special. And you can just go that's called being people are being a bully to him. And so that's why he acts out the way he does. And to kind of finally get some kind of redemption at the end, obviously, with his conversation with John, I just thought, you know what? Ben might have been an asshole in season 2 and 3, but as that series goes on, you're just yeah, I kind of get Ben, and I understand his character and I understand his plight, and I feel bad for him, and I love the character now.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I have a bunch of these I could rattle off, but one that really, just kind of blew my mind, and it's more recent, which I don't usually like to pull recent, but it seriously blew my mind because I've hated this character for 30 goddamn years. Hated him. Johnny Lawrence. Johnny Lawrence in,
Sure.
In Cobra Kai. And shout out Jennifer Miller, I know in our group she mentioned him too, but he is a character I hated him in Karate Kid. There was just nothing redeemable about him. I just thought, what a douche. He was just like a lot of kids I knew growing up. He was just a bully jackass. And then Cobra Kai comes along, and this whole show is built around the fact that the Karate Kid is now going up against Johnny Lawrence again. And Johnny Lawrence is just down and out, and he's kind of, his whole life was destroyed by that moment, like sweeping the leg. That whole moment ruined his life. His own fault in many respects. On the same token, he never really took responsibility. So he's this very unlikable guy who's kind of rude to everybody. He's kind of a douche. He's had every chance in the world, and he just keeps falling on his ass. He can't get his life together. And this show is about a guy who is redeeming himself through small but meaningful moments. You know what I mean? And it's such a goofy little show, but it does such a great job with character moments like that and bringing characters to where it's earned moments. And it makes you actually root more for Johnny Lawrence than Daniel-san, which I thought was never going to happen. I thought you'd never put me in a position where, even though I like Billy Zabka a lot as a person, I had a hard time believing that there's any chance you're going to make me root for him more than Daniel-san, because I just kind of go for the underdog normally. And I guess you could say Johnny Lawrence is an underdog in the show, but Daniel-san's been with my heart for 30 some years. I love those movies. I grew up with those movies. They meant a lot to me. That character meant a lot to me. And, he's still very much the same character, where Johnny Lawrence is still kind of a dick, but he turns into a better person. And it's just been a show that really, really stuck with me. And that character's been very meaningful to me.
That's a really good choice. I feel like I recently rewatched the series of How I Met Your Mother, and I feel like the whole fact that you had a character on that show talk about how Billy Zabka was actually the hero of at least the way he saw it, Billy Zabka was actually the hero of Karate Kid because he was the Karate Kid. He wasn't some kid from Jersey, who messed somebody else's life all up, The light they shone on Billy Zabka the last season of that show, because he got to be on the show and play with the idea of him constantly being a villain, even though he's a nice guy. Always makes me want to watch Cobra Kai. I don't know why I haven't yet.
You haven't even watched Cobra Kai?
Who are you? Is there an eject button from this podcast? Because
No,
I am
no.
just disappointed.
Well,
right
Troy,
now.
you've actually watched it. Do you agree?
Yeah, Billy Zabka is amazing. That was the whole premise of the entire first season was we're going to watch Billy try to become this guy. And Daniel-san is a complete ass in the first season, especially those first couple episodes. And so just seeing Billy Zabka do what he does with the character and takes him to a completely different place, I think is absolutely fascinating. And I'm totally rooting for Johnny the entire time, especially when you get into the whole father-son relationship between him and his kid. It's just, oh my gosh, yes, 100%. I felt a little bad for him in Karate Kid 2 when Kreese punches the car.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see Kreese is not a good guy. But at the same time, he was totally an ass. But when you go back and now look at it from the perspective of Johnny, Daniel was kind of like a jerk to him too. So it's a even playing field. And I really like where they're taking him in Cobra Kai. And you must sit down this weekend, John, and watch all of the 3 seasons because it's amazing.
Yeah,
I'll get on that.
They're only a half hour long, man. They will make you feel good. They will make you feel good.
They're so good.
It's a heartwarming show. It's funny. It's charming. It's got heart-wrenching moments. It's a beautiful show. It really is. Cobra Kai. Check it out. All right. So who are some other TV characters you personally love that are often more an unlikable sort?
So the first one I could think of was Walter White. Even before he becomes the drug dealer, he is just somebody you can tell he thinks the world has been completely unfair to him. And as he even becomes more and more of Heisenberg, that whole like he's finally becoming the big man. You can see how he's enjoying the power is just nuts. And I like him on screen for sure, but I would never want to hang out with Walter White.
I thought of that, and I'm the other way with him. Like I started out liking him and then just like despised him. I didn't hate him, but there's always like a little piece of you that still likes him, but I no longer found him lovable by the end. I would give that to Jesse Pinkman because I hated Jesse Pinkman for most of the first season and a half, really, up until his girlfriend, that thing happened. I thought he was just, I wanted him off the show. I'm like, wow, why is this kid on? And then it really, really clicked with me like, wow, he's a great actor. And now I get what they're doing with the character and I'm starting to love the guy. I feel horrible for him now, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's actually a smart character. It was hard to really choose between which character because Jesse Pinkman became somebody I would actually want to still hang out with as opposed to just keeping that barrier. Whereas he started out the show as somebody who I would never want to hang out with.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they should have made the sequel with him instead of Aaron Paul because I didn't like El Camino personally. But I would have watched something with Jesse Pinkman's character for sure.
Well, that El Camino was with Jesse Pinkman's character.
Look, yeah, but it featured Aaron Paul, right? It was like Aaron Paul's like spinoff specific. It's about. Oh wait, I'm thinking Jesse Plemons. Sorry, my bad.
Jesse Plemons was in the show.
He was. That's why I was confused for a minute.
What just happened?
I couldn't see around him. That was the problem. So.
Oh God! So I feel bad for ever bringing that up. But it's still funny. All right. Troy, what about you? What's one? Wow. I'm so sorry.
I personally love Chuck Bass in Gossip Girl. Chuck was this slimy, squirmy, comes from money, real estate, New York, thinks he was God's gift to women. And I'm just, the whole time I'm watching him maneuver and do the things that he does, I was just like, man, this guy's fascinating just to see what he can do and how he manipulates the society, but at the same time, just such a dick to everybody around him. And I just don't know why he's that lovable, likable, but yet you just want to be like, oh, Chuck Bass, like disgusting, go away. But yeah, if you haven't seen Gossip Girl, Chuck is an amazing character, and they do such a great job with him.
I kind of want to watch. I've never seen it, but now I'm kind of interested. Sincerely.
Yeah, at least the first season. If you don't like, it gets a little bit weird and crazy, and you can basically call who Gossip Girl is from episode 1, but
it's Blake Lively, isn't it?
No, it is not.
Doesn't she do the voice on that one?
No, Kristen Bell was actually the voice of Gossip Girl in the opening credits.
Oh, so Blake Lively was the star, though.
Blake Lively was a star, yes.
So what's the premise of the whole show? They're trying to figure out who's spreading gossip? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, it's basically following the high society kids in New York that go to a pretentious school, and there's like someone that just, dishes all the dirt about their families, and then the families start inbreeding and all that fun stuff. And then
what?
Eventually you figure out who the Gossip Girl is at the end of it.
I'm kind of fascinated. I'm not going to lie. That's kind of an interesting premise. Fair enough.
The new version, though, sucks compared to the original. The original is so much better.
That's too bad. But you kind of figure that when they're going to reinvent something, right? It's hardly ever as good as the original.
Yeah.
Hardly ever. John, you have another one?
I do. Elliot Stayler from SVU.
Oh, that's freaking fantastic. Stayler? Yeah. He's kind of a dick most of the time.
He is the epitome of the kind of guy you don't want to hang out with. He's got this sanctimonious attitude. He's thinks he knows everything, or if he doesn't know it, it's stupid and weird and doesn't fit into his whole way of life. So he gets to make fun of it. And if you say the wrong thing, he's going to put you into the wall. On screen, I like him. If I were to hang out with somebody like Elliot Stayler, I would be in trouble most of the time just because he would constantly have to just boss me around and it would just suck.
I've thought that watching the show because my wife loves SVU and she loves, seeing Olivia and Stabler together, and she's like, they're a great team. And when he came back on his new show and she was so excited, and, I'm like, obviously it's because he's this domineering, strapping man. But I promise you, if she knew that guy in person, she would hate him, which is fascinating to me because I know her. She hates guys like that, but somehow this guy works for her. So either it's because Christopher Maloney has just got great skills or great physique or whatever, Or he just got the charisma.
I think it's that.
Is it? Is the physique, does it?
I think it's his charisma and his great physique because he is somebody who's fun to watch on screen.
He's a hulking menace of a man. Huge. And he's also nobody ever says this, he's kind of a bad cop.
Oh, he's terrible.
He's constantly, I mean, at least if not assaulting someone, coming very close to it, where I'm like, I think that's illegal. Like, isn't that what everything that everybody's bitching about with police? That's what Stayler does, but everybody still loves him.
We can trace everything back to him.
Yeah.
That's what.
Put it all on his shoulders, for sure. I'm going to throw one of my favorites, Chloe O'Brien from 24. Chloe O'Brien.
Oh, God, yes. I feel like I've known people like her, and I've had to walk away.
If you've never seen 24, picture this. If you work in an office or wherever you work, the most annoying person that you work with is Chloe O'Brien. They're the ones that know everything. They're arrogant. They're full of they know how to do every part of the job better than you do. And they're just pissed that you can't do it as good as them. That's Chloe O'Brien. And somehow you still come to love that character. That's hard to do.
Mostly because she's the right hand to Jack. So, like, you love
Sure.
Jack and he loves Chloe, so therefore, by proxy, you love Chloe.
But you also kind of start to, I mean, wouldn't you agree, Troy? I mean, as you watch it, you start to appreciate how direct she is to people. In fact, sometimes you wish you could be like that at work too.
For sure.
I mean, I love when people are trying to have meaningful conversations with her and she just looks at them with that face like, what do you do? Get back to work. I don't care. I love that.
That is very true. She's fantastic for all those. Actually, I think I built my whole work life around being kind of like her, so it's been great.
You wanted to be like Chloe O'Brien?
Yes, I want people to leave me the hell alone.
Troy, do you have any other ones you want to mention?
That's why he lives in the mountains now.
Yeah.
Arvin Sloane from Alias.
Alias. Good call.
Yeah. I know that's a surprise for me, but Arvin, I thought, was one of the most despicable human beings on the face of the planet, especially for what he does to poor Sydney's fiance in the very first episode. And I'm just like, this guy is like the worst evil of all evils, but at the same time, he is so smooth. He's so cool. He's got the right things to say. He knows how to get shit done. And I'm just like, man, like, if I was to run an organization, like, I'd be Arvin Sloane for sure. I'd be like, can I be your right hand? Be your security guard? Something. I just want to sit by and learn from him because it just was so calculating and fascinating to me.
I love that pick. I love that guy. I was glad with how his character ended too. Exactly as it should be.
Exactly. It was a great ending.
One more round. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I'm thinking Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show.
Interesting.
Yeah, he is not one of my favorite characters at all as far as like if I were to hang out with him, but he makes me laugh every time like he does something on the show. Like every time he's doing something, and it's so subtle the way the actor plays him, which is Mark Proskich or Proskich, whatever it is, but it's Proksch. But he's so subtle about everything, and they use him so sparingly that it always makes me laugh to see what he's doing.
I'm gonna cheat and just do two, but I want to, that way we don't have to come back to me. Carla on Cheers, I think is somebody who everybody hated, but yet somehow loved. She's probably the epitome of this character, honestly. Or Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker, I guess, would be in there too. I mean, I did not mention Archie Bunker. My God. And also the Roses on Schitt's Creek, like the entire family.
Oh, especially the beginning of the series.
That's what I'm saying. Like they started as the most unlikable people ever, and then you come to absolutely love them by the end.
Oh yeah, I would hang out. But see, the difference is I would actually hang out with them by the end. I would not hang out with them in the beginning.
No, I agree with you. Like roughly until season 3, I wouldn't hang out with them.
Right.
Well, then should we finish on probably one of the best ones of all, which is former President Charles Logan from 24.
Oh my God,
that's tough.
Charles Logan is just the most despicable human being in the world and the worst president, even worse than some of our actual presidents, I think. But at the same time, his character added so much to the show that you could not like him because it was the only person that ever got under Jack's skin to the point where he almost pulled the trigger instead of actually arresting him. That scene at the end of that 5th season when he's just face to face with Charles, you're just like, oh my, like what's going to happen? Like, just shoot him. And you're like screaming at the screen to like have Jack shoot him. And you know that's not his character, but you're like, shoot him. Just shoot him in the face. So for that reason, I love what he brought to the character and brought to the show because it was a great season.
Yeah, he had this knack for displaying, I don't want to say a vulnerability, but almost, I mean, he was a weasel for sure, and he did some horrible things. But you also kind of felt bad for him, like he was way over his head for most of his tenure on that show, right, on 24.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he had like a naive ability to him, but yet still calculating at the same time.
Yeah, he had naivete. He definitely had that about him. And sometimes I would feel bad, like, well, maybe I kind of feel bad, like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he doesn't know how far he's gone. But then he would be so calculated and cold and like, okay, maybe he does. I don't know. And then after the 5th season, they brought him back, and yeah, he really kind of wins you over with a redemption-ish story. Kinda.
You know, I'm just going to piggyback off of this real quick because I find Jack Bauer somebody who I would never want to hang out with.
You sure the hell would not? Damn it, John! Damn it, Troy!
What schematic, Jack? What can I do? What can I do to make this freaking stop, Jack? Jesus!
Yeah, if you really think about it, all he does is yell at all of his coworkers.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. What a
the only time he never yells is he didn't yell was in the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 1.
And then from there on out, he's just like, God damn it! To everybody.
Yeah. Yep.
I love when they came back. Was it Live Another Day? And he comes back and he's just randomly killing people. Like he just doesn't. He's done. I'm just tired of even trying to dance around this. I'm going to shoot you in the face. He shot that one dude's wife in the leg. I still think it's one of my favorite TV moments of all time, where he's interrogating a guy and he shoots his wife in the leg to get him to talk. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! I remember yelling that, like, Jesus Christ, he's my hero, and I tell everybody how I love this guy, and here he is shooting spouses. That's not right.
Gets the job done.
Good conversation. We had some listener ones, and I want to mention a couple of them real quick.
Well, I got one from Magnus Broman. He mentioned Gaius Baltar from Battlestar Galactica, which I think is a fabulous pick.
That is a pretty fabulous pick.
Responsible for the entire crippling of the whole human civilization against the Cylons. But yet, as his journey goes along and you understand his plight and he gets into the whole religious concept of what the Cylons stand for, it's fascinating to watch his character morph as the entire series progresses over the 4 seasons. So yeah, that's a good one there.
Well, and also in that same thread, because we always post the topic in our Facebook group. If you ever want to join the Hollywood Outsider on Facebook, you got to search for it. It's a private group. You can participate in these comments. Stefan Smitterbeck also threw in Admiral Helena Kane from Battlestar. Remember her?
Good pick. From Pegasus, right?
Yep, from Pegasus. Yep. That's interesting. I want to mention Marvin Sewell. He said, I don't know if it counts, but I was thinking Shane from The Walking Dead. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That was a guy who, man, it was so hard because
his best friend's wife.
Exactly. And once you learn that, it's really hard to root for a guy who banged your best friend's wife, dead or not. I don't care what you thought. It's still your best friend's wife, man. There's the line. There's a line. And then he comes back, and then he still wants her back. And that's where it gets really complicated. And it's hard to root for him, but by the end, you kind of do, because wouldn't you say that as the seasons went on, Shane seems more and more correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
definitely.
that is true. Every decision that freaking Rick tries to make leads to disaster. And if they would have done the Shane way of doing things, they would have probably been fine.
But Shane dead.
He's dead. He's so dead. Reese Bennett also said Negan. Do you guys think Negan is a lovable character despite him being so despicable?
No.
That's a hard one, because I think the direction of the show and the writing of the show didn't do Negan. It did Negan a disservice, I think is what it is, because nobody likes the Negan episodes for the most part. Mm-hmm. If you take a random sampling, at the same time, Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays that character so well that you have nothing but complete respect for his just gravitas in the entire sequence when he thinks he's all that, and then just how he gets humbled, as it goes along. And then even in these, more recent seasons where he's now part of the community. It's a very fascinating journey to go like, I don't trust this guy any further than I can throw him. But at the same time, I really think he's misunderstood. And because of that, I'd like to sit down and chat with him and just figure out what he was facing when he made these decisions to run the Saviors the way he ran them.
Does he ever sit down, or is he still like bopping around? Because every time I've ever seen him, he's just bopping around like a freaking
in the jail cell behind the doors.
It's like on a pogo stick everywhere he goes. I'm like, are you okay? Do you have nerve issues or something? I mean, maybe you should get somebody. Do you have a doctor around here we can get checked out? Because why can't you sit still? Jesus Christ.
Hey, man, it's The Walking Dead. You stay still, you die.
That's for you, John. That's for you. The last one, Nate Bruce, Dwight Schrute from The Office, and Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. Both good calls.
Yeah, very good.
Both
calls.
very similar characters.
I would even say Michael from The Office, because I would not. I know people like it. I do not want to hang out with Michael from The Office, but he's kind of lovable.
I mean, Jan did at least, and Holly.
This week's podcast topic revolves around weird casting choices, like a 30-year-old playing teenager Evan Hansen, Tom Cruise, little Tom Cruise playing the 6'5" Jack Reacher. Seriously, if you're a reader of the books, it's not the same character, but he still did a very nice job, but whatever. Gary Oldman playing a dwarf in Tiptoes, a movie that actually has Peter Dinklage playing another role, and Oldman is coincidentally Matthew McConaughey's twin brother somehow. That's true. Look it up. Tiptoes. What the hell is happening? That's what that role should have been called in that movie. So we're talking about really weird choices. Now, by the way, anybody ever seen Tiptoes? Don't. just look up that information, because I am not making that up. Gary Oldman played a dwarf in a movie that literally has Peter Dinklage in a different role. It's weird. It's just weird. Okay, so weird is a relative term. And oftentimes the casting works out. Tom Cruise is definitely not the book's Jack Reacher. I've read a bunch of those books. He is not that character at all. Jack Reacher is fairly unattractive. He's an average looking guy, very imposing, but that's about it. And also a very good detective and ass kicker. So even though it's not the book Jack Reacher, he did manage to make the character his own. And he kicked a lot of ass playing him. I think he did a very good job as Jack Reacher. It's just not the book's Jack Reacher. So it was weird casting. Just weird. So what do you think has been the weirdest casting choices you can remember? We're going to go round robin. Amanda, you can start. Start with your first one and why it was so weird for you. And whether it worked or not, that's up to you.
Yeah, so the first one that came to mind immediately was Heath Ledger playing the Joker in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, we were all worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, he was always kind of like a sweet, quirky, cute character sort of thing, and historically, there's been a lot of Jokers, and most of them are pretty good. And so he had some competition to come up against, and I think I can speak for the general population that he astounded all of us beyond belief. I mean, to this day, he's still my favorite Joker. I just couldn't believe the performance that he gave.
It's funny because if you look back now, well, yeah, he's the best Joker. He's great. He's wonderful. I love him. He's definitely better than Jared Leto. But at the time, you're right. I mean, he was just not a guy you could picture in that role. And at that time, what a lot of people don't remember is Jack Nicholson was still pretty beloved in that role from when he played in Tim Burton's Batman. So even though his was over the top and very cheesy and whatnot, people loved that performance. Heath Ledger made it real. He made it dark. He made it sadistic. And I think that's just what endeared him to so many people.
Yeah, the actual, I remember the press around the time, and people used to complain about how dumb of a decision that was.
They did, yeah.
It was all over the internet, or whatever was the internet at the time, and it was
message board.
You could not miss. Yeah, you could not miss how people were complaining about their choice. And then as soon as he portrays that character, everyone turned right around.
I mirror it to the Gal Gadot experience, where everyone thought she was too tiny and she couldn't.
Including me.
Yeah,
me too. Thought she was too tiny, thought she didn't have enough, oomph to her character or that. And when she hit the screen, we were all like, damn, we were very wrong.
Absolutely.
We apologize deeply for being so wrong. And so it's the same experience where you essentially just underestimate them based on what you know of them and your perception of them. And then they come out and they shine. And you're like, I couldn't picture anybody else doing this.
What a great honorable mention you snuck in there.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Yeah, very well done.
That was like seamless. That was like congrats.
Yeah. Because, I mean, all people really knew about Gal Gadot was she can roll her ass onto a runway really well in Fast 6. I mean,
And I'm sure come back to life in Fast 10 or Fast 11.
oh, God, they're probably working on it. If they can afford her, she'll be back. Sure.
Yeah, she's probably expensive now.
She's pricey. Troy?
I think part of the problem, too, is that people come in with preconceived notions because they base people on their past work and they base them what they look like versus like actually thinking about, oh, hey, I'm an actor. If I do the right training or put on enough weight or do my hair a certain way, like they're supposed to be able to become any one of these characters. And I think that was the case with Heath. I mean, he just really got himself into the mindset of what it was to be the Joker. And then, you know, obviously dealt with some of that fallout after the fact, but really, really a surprise when this actually hit the screen because you're just like, wow, is that the same guy? Is that the same guy? Like 10 Things Hate About You? Same guy? Really? Okay.
I think even now looking at, because I love 10 Things I Hate About You, and he is adorable in that movie. And comparing that to Heath Ledger's Joker, it's just like, gosh, is it really the same person? And I think that's what strikes me so much is that I have to still contemplate, like, how did he become such a different human being?
Brokeback Mountain.
It's the process. I mean, that's what acting is.
Troy, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with my first one, which was Jake Gyllenhaal, speaking of Brokeback Mountain, and Prince of Persia, Sands of Time.
Yeah,
Because
playing a brown guy. Yeah.
that is like, yeah, step number one, like stop whitewashing Hollywood. Step number two, he may look good in a cowboy outfit, but he's not a prince. He doesn't have a commanding figure, nor does he look anything like the character.
Okay, let's back that train all the way up into another
I got horny
universe.
watching that movie. What are you talking about? I thought I was on Brokeback Mountain watching that. He was so oiled up and sexy. I'm going too far, but
handsome,
you get the
beautiful
point.
man.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
but like I said,
Whitewashing,
like,
yes.
He's
everything
he's
else,
a
no.
cowboy,
He can be my prince, Troy.
but he's not a prince. He's not princely. He's not
Yes, he
kingly.
is.
He wasn't a prince in the movie. He was a homeless kid that
Well, I know,
the Sultan picked up.
If you know what I
but
mean.
it just
I just rewatched it, so
I like that
I feel
movie.
sad for you.
I like that movie.
You must really be bored in the
I
mountains. up
do
there.
like
Holy
that
cow.
movie.
I like
I
that
thought this
movie.
was going to be a positive
It's
one.
totally offensive. I get all that, and I agree with all that.
Yeah.
I still like it. But go ahead, Trey. Why is it weird for
No,
you?
I just feel like playing the video game, comparing it to the actual like movie itself. It just didn't work. It's the wrong casting choice for me. The whole
It
movie
definitely
probably was the wrong
whitewashes.
choice to make in the first place, also. But different conversation.
I
different
do
day.
agree he's the wrong person to cast in that role, even though I kind of enjoyed it. It's kind of like Johnny Depp in The Lone Ranger. He should not be him, but I still enjoy
Right.
the movie. You know?
Or Emma Stone in Aloha.
Oh Jesus, yeah, she's not any. Where did you think she was Asian? Like what?
Did you hear? I think it was the director who had said something.
Cameron Crowe.
I don't know.
Cameron Crowe directed
Yeah,
that one.
said something like, "I didn't realize that the majority of the population was Pacific Islander," and I'm like,
On the Pacific
in
Island.
Hawaii.
He swallowed a lot of crow on that one.
Yeah.
I'm proud
So
of that.
dumb.
I just made that up on the spot. Clapping for myself. John, what do you got?
what? Oh, sorry. I got my first one is one that, when everyone said that this person was going to play Batman, everyone was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And that's Michael Keaton as Batman. And it's actually a Batman that works. Although when you look at Michael Keaton, you don't sit there and say, "Hey, that's a man that should be Batman."
But I like him because I think he is a man who looks like Bruce Wayne.
No, I don't think he is that either.
I don't like him in either part. And I know it's sacrilege to say, but I love Michael Keaton.
How dare
I
you.
don't like him as Batman. And do you want to get nuts? I mean, I just don't.
I concur with Aaron.
Okay, you just sold me on not liking him for Batman.
He never once felt threatening to me. He never, I felt like he was always wrong for the part. That's a personal choice, and I know the world's against me on it. Go ahead. Aaron at the Hollywood Outsider. You know what? Send it to Troy at the HollywoodOutsider.com. He might read them. Just no.
But those movies were also different.
I still like the
tone
movies.
And style.
They were very different.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it works, because of the tone and style of the movie and what they were trying to go for, versus if you look at the Dark Knight series, obviously a much different tone. You need a much different Batman.
Agreed. So, John, but that casting choice worked for you, is what you're saying.
It does work for me because I like how he actually fits very well in a gothic character, which Batman is a gothic character. So, because, hey, Gotham. But anyhow.
It's probably where the name came from.
Right. But, he works as a gothic character because he has that he does have a roguish quality to him as far as his appearance, and that does kind of work. But the rest of it, like, he's not an imposing figure. He's not the size of Batfleck, who's the right Batman. He's not the handsomeness of
Christian
Bale. He's not or any of the other ones. But yeah, he still works for me.
Well, my first one is the original Gangsta, and I'm going to have to explain why he's somebody that was a weird casting choice. I need to explain it because I don't know if you'd get it. If you don't know the history, you might not get why it was so weird to me at the time. So I grew up listening to Ice-T. I grew up, original Gangster and other works of his were staples in my world. Where I grew up, Ice-T and Eazy-E, they were basically folk heroes on how defiant they were of cops in both their music and their lives. I mean, Ice-T wrote a song once about killing cops. He was not a fan, or it seemed like he was not a fan of police officers. So when I heard Ice-T was going to be in New Jack City, it's a movie about a drug dealer in the projects rising to the heights of the criminal world. I just thought, damn, Ice-T's going to be a great Scarface. That's what I thought. I mean, he was a drug dealer before he was even a rapper. And then I go and see the movie, and he's not only playing a cop, but the cop determined to bring down Nino Brown, who's the drug dealer. I was like, what? This is crazy. That's the weirdest casting ever to me. And yes, very against type. And I guess that's what Mario Van Peebles wanted when he had the film in mind and he had Ice-T in mind. And Ice-T crushed it in that role. I mean, so well, he's been playing cops ever since. And that was weird. That was just weird for the time. Now, pretty common. I mean, he's been on Law and Order for 2 decades.
Yeah. I'm actually on a Law and Order trip right now. It's nothing but Ice-T all the time. I thought when you mentioned New Jack City, I thought you were going to go with Judd Nelson because he is not the kind of cop that they were trying to portray him as, or he doesn't fit that character very well. But Ice-T is a really good choice because he does really sell that role, and he has that like when he's dealing with Chris Rock's character, it feels like he actually cares. When he's going up against Nino Brown, he's going up against his nemesis. It's a lot of power in that role. And
he doesn't lose his street cred when he's doing it. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, in those kind of roles, he's almost too empathetic. And I don't think he was too empathetic. He just, man, get yourself right. He just wanted things to be even and right on the street, as far as that role went. And I think he played it really well, especially for a guy that really didn't have many acting credits. I mean, he jumped from I'm a rapper to you're the lead star.
Mm-hmm. This isn't business. This is personal.
Then at the end, when he dies and Judd Nelson just gives him that smile, that's one of my favorite moments in movies ever. Speaking of Judd Nelson.
Yep.
When he's just like, Nino Brown dies. Spoiler alert. And Judd Nelson, everybody else is panicking and he's just smiling. I just thought that was great. I freaking love that.
Yep.
Sorry. Amanda, back to you.
Well, my second choice is Vince Vaughn from Psycho.
Ugh, that hurts my soul.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with Hitchcock's iconic horror film, then the first person that comes to mind in a remake, whether it's satirical or serious, is not Vince Vaughn. He's not the guy I think of. Norman Bates as a character is reserved, is more withdrawn, and Vince Vaughn is very in your face and just something else. He is not the guy to be in Psycho. And Aaron, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts and feelings on this as a huge Hitchcock fan and co-host of Presenting Hitchcock.
presenting Hitchcock. Yes, which is a great podcast you should check out. We did cover Psycho at one point. And our next episode is Rear Window. What? So excited for that. Yeah, it's a shot-for-shot remake, except for they added like one scene where he masturbates. Why? I don't know. Just apparently like, Gus Van Sant thought that was a good idea.
Well, they probably walked in on Vince Vaughn. He was already doing it. And they were like, hey, turn the cameras on.
Get it rolling. Get it rolling. And then he's like talking really fast while he's doing it. I never understood the movie, the point of the movie, and I sure didn't understand the casting. I don't think he's awful in it. I just don't think he's the right guy for it. Or the movie was the right movie. Like, if you're going to remake Psycho, add something new to it besides masturbation scene. Just otherwise don't do it. So, yeah.
I mean, there's a problem with like when you think about like Heath Ledger or even Jake Gyllenhaal, where you sit there and you go like, I can actually see them in the part. It's hard, but you can see them in the part. Or, hey, it really surprised me that they were doing this part. Like, you do not see Vince Vaughn in this role at all. Like, the entire time you see Vince Vaughn. It's kind of like Will Smith playing Deadshot. Like, you know it's Will Smith the entire time. You never see the Deadshot character, so it just didn't work.
Right. I mean, Deadshot worked fine for me, but it was Will Smith the whole time. I just like Will Smith. I'm just like,
right.
Yeah, it's Will Smith as, Deadshot, I think. I think that casting was totally because he was hot at the time.
Yep.
That's all it was.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Keanu Reeves in a bus movie called Speed, because he had one action film, I think, prior to this, which would have been Point Break, where he was like a hip surfer dude, still more like a Bill and Ted character than a true action hero. And Speed really read more like a Bruce Willis Die Hard type character. And surprisingly, Keanu really pulls it off in the movie. I thought it was really fantastic watching him. And of course, the chemistry between him and Sandra Bullock really just makes that movie. So, but at the time when they were like, yeah, Keanu Reeves is going to do Speed, and we're just like, okay, what is the bus going to like time travel when it hits below 55 miles an hour? I don't understand.
That would have been amazing.
I really like that movie.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And dead on. That was weird casting. I remember when it came. And you know what? That was a huge hit. And then he didn't want to come back for the sequel, which boggled my mind, because that movie would have been good. But Jason Patrick, not so much.
Yeah, the sequel sucked.
And
well, did it suck because it was Jason Patrick, or did it suck because it was the sequel?
Yes, is the answer.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both.
It would have been watchable had Keanu been in it.
Yeah, because I mean, no matter what, he's usually watchable. Even in Point Break, where I will dare say his acting is bad, he's still.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
Yeah, it's an entertaining watch, regardless.
Uh-huh.
Yes, Patrick Swayze's the main reason, but I can still watch him going, I still like the guy. It's like, I know he's bad at this role, but I still like him, and I can't figure it out. And in Speed, I thought he actually was. I don't know if he learned. Maybe it's because he realized the FBI agent in Point Break was so awful. He actually went to do some law enforcement training, so he knew how to be a better cop, because he actually seemed like a good cop in Speed.
Agree.
That's a whole lot of conjecture, but my third choice.
Second choice.
Or
John,
second choice.
The time machine's here.
So my second choice is a movie that's really near and dear to my heart, because it's one of my favorites. That's Prince of Thieves, and it's Kevin Costner as Robin Hood, slipping in and out of that accent like crazy. Which, as much as I want to sit there and give him a hard time for slipping in and out of that accent or fighting to keep an accent the entirety of the movie, I also forgot about the halfway point, and was able to really just sit down and enjoy it.
At what point is he in the accent? Because I don't recall that point ever in that movie. I remember him thinking he's supposed to have one. At one point, you can see him look up to the sky and go, I think I should have one. But I never actually heard it.
I think right about the time he meets Morgan Freeman's character, there's no more accent.
It's just so weird.
I'm with Aaron. I don't remember him having an accent at all.
I don't remember it at all. I think Bryan Adams had more of an accent in his song, a Canadian accent, than he had in this whole movie.
Hey?
I'll cut your heart out with a spoon. Alan Rickman makes that movie so
he really does.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. Even though he's not a very good Robin Hood. That movie is infinitely watchable. I've watched that probably 15 times over the years, and I still enjoy it.
Yeah. You can easily like triple that for me. You even have Christian Slater, who also slips in and out of an English accent,
And Jack
like,
Nicholson
willy-nilly.
somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson trying to do an English accent. It is bad, but he gets that great line, fuck me, he made it, That's such a great, everything about it. And you're right, Alan Rickman is really what makes that movie so watchable, because everybody else is so chill and doing their whole, like, I'm pretending to be English thing, and the actual English guy is just rocking it and just, like, going everywhere phonetically, and it's just awesome.
He stands out in everything.
He does. Well, not anymore.
I know, I was thinking stood out, but then that was too sad, and then Aaron went there
Too
anyway.
soon.
People get mad when I can't help. Person no longer here. It's not. Anyway. All right. Riding that same train that John was just riding. Sean Connery, one of my favorite all-time actors. One of the best actors ever to work in film. Arguably one of the best actors who can't actually act. Because he plays just Sean Connery and everything. But just kidding. I love Sean Connery. The Hunt for Red October is a great movie. I have no problems whatsoever with that movie. But you have to admit it was freaking weird to cast Sean Connery as a Russian subcommander who has a zero Russian accent for the entire movie, even when he actually speaks Russian. He actually speaks Russian at one point and doesn't sound Russian. And nobody faulted him for it anywhere. They were all like, yep, that's exactly what he should sound like. What? No.
Maybe he tried and it was so much worse that they were like, please don't. Please just do American and we'll just pretend like we forgot to check some things.
It's wild.
Just do American? What?
It's Scottish.
You know what it is?
Scottish. He's Scottish.
Yeah. English.
Scottish.
I meant English.
That's my natural accent.
I meant to say English when I said just be American.
I'm knitting, okay? I lost track.
Forecasting choices for the podcast.
Well, don't be knitting during a podcast, number one.
No, it's relaxing. John is broken.
Wow.
Someone sent an ambulance
Russian
to help
space
John.
station.
All right. Oh my God. You know what I was just going to say, was trying to say before I lost, or divided by zero just there, is that you kind of marvel at his hairpiece the entire time too.
It is, yeah.
This is very true.
He had the best wig guy. Whoever that guy was.
He really
he's
did.
a great wig guy. I think Nick Cage called him up, but he wasn't available anymore or something. Because Nick Cage didn't know.
Oh, my.
What? If you think that's his natural hair, I hate to tell you it is not.
I know, but it was just some real shade. You went there.
Well, Nick Cage needs the shade.
Somebody needs to tell him, that's too dark. It's just too dark. It's not a magic marker hair thing. What are you doing? That's just weird.
Maybe he should try forhims.com.
Ooh, ouch. Amanda, third.
Oh, I'm back already.
Yeah, if you weren't knitting. That's just weird.
You know what? Leave me be. I'm making a nice little Harry Potter scarf. You're not getting anything now.
I don't want one. I just want you to answer the question.
Maybe you were going to get something else. De Niro in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Just not the kind of guy that you picture when everybody else is in like a very historical type pose, and you just got De Niro with what I presume is like a Boston accent. It's just like, how did we arrive here?
I don't remember that, but it sounds fantastic.
Yeah. It's just shocking. I think the consensus I'm realizing as we're talking about these is that they need to hire someone on set to ensure accent consistency.
Wrong. I like it better this way. It's more entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talking to me?
What are we? Like, what are we? English?
Hey, be nice to me, okay?
No, not American. English. Still not Scotland.
meant like English.
You know what? English, Japanese, all the same. I get it. Yeah.
No.
It's all the same. Troy, number 3.
Well, I think this is the first time you can actually say that this musical was actually named Les Miserables because they
Wow.
put a guy who could not sing at all into one of the best singing parts that we had just witnessed at the 25th anniversary edition live from the O in London, and that is Russell Crowe playing Javert. Like,
I'm sorry,
worst-
live from the O?
Yeah, live from the O.
Get cultured.
I'm going to walk away for this one.
It's English. You wouldn't have seen it.
You wouldn't know.
It's not American.
And it's definitely not in Scotland. Russell Crowe is just terrible in this role completely. Can't sing. Unfortunately, in this case, can't act either because most of the acting involves singing at the same time. And it was just a disaster. And it was just a complete capitulation for the character. And when he finally goes over the edge and kills himself in the movie, I was just like, thank freaking God that that's over.
Did he do it with cheeseburgers?
Wow.
No.
Wow. Wow. People get mad at me. So, Troy, I got a question because for everybody that I know that has seen them, I have not seen Les Miserables or whatever.
I haven't seen it either.
So I don't know the answer to how bad Crow was, but I've heard from everyone I've talked to, and I asked a few people about this because I saw this was your selection, and I wanted to know for sure that I knew I'd watched the movie. Is he really that bad? And they all said, movie great, Hugh Jackman fantastic, and Hathaway was just amazing. But yes, he almost destroyed the whole movie single-handedly.
Yes.
Is that true?
100%. If you are a Les Mis fan in any way, shape, or form and watched any production other than the movie, and then you watch the movie, you're like, I can never see Les Mis again.
And it's just his performance that ruins it.
Correct.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Everybody else is so great. And it's just like, yeah. The answer is, Russell, I am not entertained at all.
Bravo.
You know, he's just, he had that in a title card somewhere. And he's just like, I got to hold on to this one. I got this baby ready to go. Ready to go.
He's like, this is my moment. This is my moment. This is the me moment right now.
All right, John, what's your last one?
So my last one was one that I actually, I have to admit, I don't remember the movie at all. I know I watched it and I thought I liked it when I did watch it, but I was still stunned by this casting choice, and that's Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo. I do remember that I found him engaging and scary and just nuts. And as I understand it, this was the role that led him into getting cast in Christopher Nolan's
Insomnia.
Thank you. And so that. And again, that's another great role where you find him playing something that's completely out of type for him. And this is one of those ones that just works.
He was always such an underappreciated dramatic actor, I think.
Yeah,
because he was so good at literally everything he did. Any role he played, he was wonderful in. But whenever he did dark, which, you know, obviously he didn't do a ton of, but whenever he did it, unlike a lot of comedic actors who try to do very, very dark roles, it's hard for them to step out of. Jim Carrey, he's famous for, he's actually a pretty solid dramatic actor, but nobody takes him seriously in those parts because they only see him, you know, funny faces and everything, where you can get lost in a Robin Williams performance. That 1 Hour Photo is definitely a prime example of that. Insomnia, he does a bunch of other ones, but that I think is the one role where I finally saw him in a different light. Good choice. So here's one that really kind of messed me up as a kid. True story. So my grandfather's favorite actor was John Wayne. I've seen so many John Wayne westerns. I don't love John Wayne, but I like John Wayne. I mean, he's like Sean Connery. He's literally the same guy in every movie, including when he played Genghis Khan. in 1956's The Conqueror. Just to give you a quick history lesson, Genghis Khan is probably one of the most famous people of Asian descent. I mean, he's definitely in the top 3, I would think. And he's the Asian chief of the Mongols, right? So we all know Asian. And in this movie, The Conqueror, where John Wayne plays Genghis Khan, they dress him up like Genghis Khan. They keep calling him Genghis Khan. Many of the cast speak in that really offensive Chinese wannabe accent. except for John Wayne as Genghis Khan, who sounds exactly like John Wayne at a Halloween party wearing Genghis Khan's outfit. It is something to build. Like, there has never been a better case for whitewashing than John Wayne as Genghis Khan in The Conqueror. And I, for the life of me, can't understand who in their right mind thought this was a good idea. Now, I'm going to explain why that messed me up as a kid. Because until I actually got to high school and had history class where they actually explained who Genghis Khan was, keep in mind, no internet, kids, so I didn't learn until I got a book with it. I thought it was a white guy. Just had a lot of Asians working for him. That's what I thought.
Oh, my.
That's what I thought. Because, Amanda, I didn't know who Genghis Khan was at the time. Like,
no, I understand.
I just knew the movie. And then history class, I'm like, well, he was a leader of the Mongols and it's Asian. And I'm like, wait, what? What? You sure it wasn't? You sure it wasn't me, Pilgrim?
Did you see that movie, though?
I'm telling you. What? Insane. Just insane. Oh, but not so fun fact. Maybe it's penance for making this movie. Just so you know, The Conqueror, almost half of that film's crew, true story, died of cancer, including John Wayne himself. And many believe it was because the movie was shot on a nuclear testing site in Utah.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
There's nothing good that came out of that film is what I'm saying. Nothing.
Probably one of the worst of his career.
And
Not even John Wayne's lungs.
wow. But seriously, go even find a clip of it. It's hysterical because they're talking in that broken Chinese, it's that accent everybody hates, especially if you're Asian or an Asian actor, which I've heard from many Asian actors, especially recent years, who have said that they can't stand when actors have to have that accent. They're all doing that while he sounds just like himself. And it boggles my mind.
Oh, and he's got like mascara on for painting
Yes.
in the different eye shape, right?
Yeah, it's not.
Yes.
It's not good.
It's not a good look for
It's
Hollywood.
not a really good look for Hollywood, no. Okay, well, those are our picks. So listener comments. Anybody, Amanda, we each went through, the topic goes in our Facebook group, and we each picked a comment from those comments. So, Amanda, what do you got?
Yeah, mine's from Adam Smith. And great choice, I'm going to start off by saying, because this was my honorable mention. Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula, one of the worst attempts at a British accent I've seen.
Oh, yeah, he's supposed to be English.
I can't stand you guys.
Tammy Ray Spiro says, I find it interesting that we have all selected males. I'll throw in a couple of female roles. Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio, who I used to think was hot way back in the day.
She was.
Did she say that or did you say that?
That was me
Okay.
going in my little editorial. For Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, yes, she was another one who kept on slipping in and out of her accent every now and again. And then Katie Holmes for Batman Begins, which I actually agree. Like, she sort of ruins the movie a little here and there.
Disagree.
I love that movie. I can handle her, but I do wish it was someone else.
I
agree with Amanda.
Don't agree with any of you. I thought she was fine. She didn't bother me at all. And I really wish she was in The Dark Knight versus Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I do agree that she should have been in the
Yeah, if she was going to be there,
Dark
she should have
Knight.
stayed, and then it would have made it better. But
Yeah.
because she wasn't in the second
Right.
movie, it ruins the first movie when you go watch it now.
Yep.
I'm not on board. I thought she was fine. I'm fine with you, Katie. Even if Tom Cruise isn't,
It's for the best.
obviously.
Wendy Davies said, might be unpopular, but Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon in the Da Vinci Code. I do love Mr. Hanks, but having read all of the books, felt like he was completely the wrong fit for the character. And having seen both of those movies, I agree. It's probably the two that I do dislike Tom Hanks the most in.
Oh my gosh, sacrilege.
He's legitimately not good in those movies.
I haven't seen them, full disclosure.
I think
but-
it's his wig. That's the problem with that movie.
He does
Could
like
be.
have a mullet that's going on or something. I don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Troy made me watch the new series, The Lost Symbol?
The Lost Symbol, yeah. Ashley
Yes.
Zuckerman is actually really, really great and totally is the Robert Langdon that we should have had in the movies.
Yeah, he's really good on Peacock. You should watch that. John?
You're it.
No,
you're
it.
up, buddy.
John went.
Did he?
I already went. Yeah.
He skipped me. It was fine. Oh, I'm not butthurt about it.
No, you went. Wendy Davies. Wasn't that yours?
That was mine.
And I said Tammy Ray Spiro.
Okay.
And we did the Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who I thought was hot.
just didn't go in order, and you missed Troy.
And completely threw off
his
the old
feelings
guy.
are hurt.
Right.
I'm not hurt. I just think it's funny that he threw off the old guy because the old guy can't remember who all went.
Hey,
Right.
get off my lawn and shut your whore mouth. All right.
Sonny!
Ty Nelson. He said, and these are three of them that I think are all spot on. Denise Richards as nuclear physicist Christmas Jones. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I buy that.
Can't even say that. What?
I'm kidding. Of course I don't buy it.
Okay. I was going to say, you're kicked off.
The only thing about that works is that end line, I guess Christmas doesn't come more than one, or does come more than once a year, whatever the hell that line was. that was so ridiculous. I'm just like, okay, that almost made this whole stupid part worth it. Oh, whatever. He also says Alanis Morissette as God in Dogma. That one worked.
Oh, I liked
actually
her.
like
That's a
That
great
worked.
move.
But it was weird.
Yeah.
But it was weird.
Weird.
Right.
Yeah, but I liked her.
Weird, but it worked.
Yeah.
And Charlton Heston as a Mexican in Touch of Evil. Yeah. Hollywood. What the hell? So there you go. Boom. Great topic, guys. That was a lot of fun. Boy, and that
What does Charlton Heston sound like when he's trying to do a Mexican accent?
Charlton Heston, but more offensive.
John Wayne trying to do an Asian accent.
Yeah.
Right.